Hello, everyone, and welcome to Life After the Military, a show completely focused on reversing the trend of veteran suicide by helping veterans transition from military to civilian life and strengthening the mental fitness of our active duty military members, veterans, and their families. Our show is powered by Pivotal Moments Media, an organization on a mission to strengthen mental fitness worldwide for all. Go check them out at pivotalmomentsmedia.com to learn more. My name is Lee Elias, and I'm joined, as always, by my good friend and co-host, Howie Cohen, and we are privileged to have Jay Salters with us today. Jay is a native of Manhattan, New York, and he enlisted in the Navy as a cryptologic technician on September 11th, 2002. He worked his way up through the ranks to Chief Petty Officer and commissioning as a cryptologic warfare officer. He has earned several degrees, 7 warfare qualifications, and was the Spirit of Bob Hope recipient. It's an award that's presented to individuals who epitomize the values of Bob Hope: duty, honor, courage, loyalty, commitment, integrity, and selfless dedication, something we see a lot on this show. Jay is also the founder of Act Now Education, which significantly enhances the quality of life of service members and their families serving worldwide. And Jay selflessly contributes to an extraordinary amount of time, talent, or resources to benefit the organization. He has provided his educational seminars from the White House to overseas and helped over 14,000 military and their families with educational training and resources. Jay guides the organization to provide free, comprehensive educational resources and opportunities for active duty veterans, military spouses, and children, as we said. Sounds like an amazing organization. Jay, welcome to Life After the Military.
Thank you. That might be hard to follow up with that guy.
Hey Jay, with the Bob Hope Award, so what's your golf score, man? Because I know Bob Hope is a big golfer, man. So, did you have to be a scratch golfer to get that award too, or what?
I might piss some people off. I'm a top golf fan here, but when you take me to like the 8 and 9 holes, we were not winning anything. My score is pretty low, measle scores. So yeah, I'm mostly just for fun. But that whole event was I think it was definitely a pivotal moment in my career, because
that's impressive, man.
Yeah, and I was very thankful.
That's really impressive. Good for you.
Yeah, and thanks for using the terminology pivotal moments. We always love to plug the channel by accident here on the show. And there's nothing wrong with top golf. You should have fun when you're playing golf. But Jay, let me ask you this. You're currently serving as an active duty naval officer. And we said you somehow found the time to find Act Now Education in 2013. And you serve as their CEO. What motivated you to do this, and how did you do it, right? And tell us about the organization, how it supports active duty, as we said, military members, transitioning veterans, spouses, and other family members.
Oh, definitely. I'll pivot on to talking about that. So when we started, it was roughly in 2008. I was considering getting out. Everyone that's in the military, once you go past a certain couple of years, you're thinking about your 10-year mark. Okay, if I'm going to stay in, what I'm going to do? If I'm getting out, what I'm going to do? And so that point came to me, and I was like, all right, well, I got a security clearance. That's great. It's a check in a box, but I don't have the other things that I need, like a degree or certifications. I specifically came in the Navy because, I couldn't afford college. And I was looking for ways to be able to afford college while also finding opportunities to upskill and learn a trade or a skill set. So I started to think about like the process of what I need to do and how I need to do it. So I started doing some research, and then I realized, there was a certification program. It's called Navy Cool. All the services have it, essentially: the Army Cool, Army CA, Air Force Cool, Marine Cool, Navy Cool. So I took advantage of that program, started to look at the details into that. And then I went from not having any certifications to completing about 17 certifications in a year and a half. Yeah. And so
in a year and a half?
Yeah, in a year and a half. That kind of set me on a different trajectory. So once I realized, because they weren't as difficult as I thought they would be, and they were related to my rate, or my current rating, or MOS, for those who are not familiar. But I took advantage of that. And then I was able to get into knocking out my associates, and then got into a prestigious bachelor's degree program, National Intelligence University, which is a federally funded school. That kind of just changed a lot to me. So I was thinking, like, okay, if I'm getting all these things and all this stuff is free and it's moving me forward, why not stay in, right? And so I decided to stay in, but in the midst of that, I realized that there were a lot of other people closer to the exit that didn't take advantage of those programs and opportunities. So
Hell,
unbeknownst
they
to me,
might not even have known about them, right? I mean,
oh yeah, and then most of the time, yeah, most of the time, that's what it was related to. People just wasn't aware of it, and so I was like, you know what, I'm going to just throw a few slides together, and then put it out there and present it. And so I did. I said education training 101. I forgot what I called it. It was something what is not called now. But the first training I did in front of a room of 75 people or so, and I bombed it. It was horrible. It was like I'm not a public speaker, and so talking about things I have experience in, but just being able to convey that to the audience and working with the audience, it was just new to me, right? And so once I got done with that, I was like, that's never happening again. Won't do it again. But my senior chief at the time, he pulled me to the side. He's like, he retired as a master chief, but at the time he was senior chief. He pulled me to the side. He was like, hey, I know how you felt about that, but you're going to do it again next week. And I was like, senior, you were here. You saw this. You saw how bad I did. There was like things that there was like awkward pauses and stuff. I'm not subjecting myself to this anymore. And he was like, oh, you don't understand. You are going to do this again. And so he said it like that. I was like,
good for him.
Yeah, yes, you're right, senior. I will do this again. So I did it again.
Yes, you're voluntold. You were voluntold to do it again.
Absolutely. And then it kind of stuck with me, right? And so for the first part of the few years, it was just mainly just focused on an educational brief that I was doing all over. I did it overseas, did it on different platforms, submarine, surface ships, everywhere I went, I was able to provide that. And then, so that's kind of like where it all started. And then I want to say within the last few years, it grew into social media because we weren't really focused on that, but we want to get the information out there. A lot of people are not aware of these programs, these resources, and how they can change or impact the folks if they knew about them. So, we were trying to change people's, make that impact and have add some value with these resources. There's over 40,000 different resources for the military community, and people just aren't aware of them.
Yeah, I mean, it just lets you do it at scale, right? I mean, that's the key. That is a fascinating story, man. And you are one driven man. I'm dead serious, Jay. That's impressive. That's an impressive story for someone who didn't even have enough money to educate themselves the way you did. For you to be that driven, number one, to even seek the education, number one, do their homework and find out what's available to them at no cost to them, and then to actually make the commitment to do it and follow through and achieve the certifications, achieve the degrees. That is an impressive story. And that, because I was wondering, how the heck are you doing all the things you're doing while you're still on active duty? But now it makes perfect sense. You first of all, you have a passion for what you do. And you care about what you do. You care about the men and women in uniform from every service, and you're absolutely driven, man. So good for you. That is a phenomenal story.
And I want to definitely let the audience know, like that whole approach, right? I definitely did take some L's, some losses, and I think that's what helped me. My failures were what allowed me to do what I was able to do, because essentially, I didn't have, growing up a single parent family, my mom there wasn't really an emphasis on education, right? My mom didn't graduate high school, and I was a middle child, so I was the first one to actually make it through high school, right, with mediocre grades. My grades weren't good, but that's because I don't think there was a lot for me there, not understanding that value, right? And so once I got done with high school, everyone's going to college, going to these different locations. So I was like, oh, let me apply for, community college, get started like everyone else, sign up for a computer science degree. So I went to sign up in New York for this community college, fill out the application, went there the day of, like the first day, really excited for it, walking through the halls, like, oh man, this is going to be great, me in college. And then once I get through with like the registration, they let me know that, it's going to be $16,000. And I was like, $16,000 for what? He was like, for the year, it's going to be $16,000. I was like, who's paying that? What about what about financial aid? Are they like, don't I have financial aid? Like, sir, you haven't applied for financial aid. It's like, So it was an awkward walk, a very awkward
Yeah.
walk, leaving that place and going back to my mom and saying, well, I guess I'm not going to school because I can't afford it. I didn't want to, one, take out debt, and I didn't want to put myself through that. And
Hey, you're
start
the
that
only
way.
one, man. Everybody else is doing it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
Jesus.
no, yeah. I was like, let me see what other options were. And then talking to a recruiter, it made sense. And they obviously threw the education piece in there. And I was like, okay, this may work. But even for me, right, going through learning the job, what I was supposed to be doing 6-7 years later, I still didn't have any of those things. And once I started considering, that getting out, I was like, am I really just going to not take advantage of this opportunity because it's only a small window? If I really want to transition and
Really?
do something good for myself, I don't want to come in like I left. I don't want to leave like I came in. So
Right.
that's what kind of pushed me forward, and I was able to take advantage of it. But it definitely was, like I said, a few setbacks that helped me get there. And
yeah, but that, listen, man, that makes the story even more impressive to me, to be very frank with you. And Lee, I don't know if you know where I'm going right now, but listen, I just listened to Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins' book, for the fourth time on Audible. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah. There's
so listen, I am listening to your story, and I'm reminded of Goggins, man. The fact that you obviously you didn't have as much of the troubled childhood as he had, but he had a very difficult childhood. And I look, I'm not comparing you to that, but the bottom line is you had to work for everything you got, just like he did. You had to commit to constantly challenge and improve yourself, just like he did. And you were driven just like he was. Now it may have been in a little bit different area, but to me the story is very similar, and it's equally in its own way as impressive as Goggins' story, because look at where he came from and where he is now, and look at where you came from and where you are now. I mean, I'm telling you, man. And maybe it's just because I just recently, literally yesterday, finished the book for about the fourth or fifth time that I have Goggins on my mind. But I'm listening to you and I'm thinking of David Goggins, man. It's unbelievable, Yeah,
David Goggins is one of the most amazing individuals out there for being able to conquer mindset. I read the book too, and just for him to kind of understand those hurdles and then have that resiliency and grit.
Unbelievable.
And then realizing him being what was it, not a janitor, but
he Ecolabs, right? He was
spraying
killing roaches and rodents and all that other stuff, right?
And then for him to see that commercial and be like, look, this is the direction I want to go because I got to do better. To be able to overcome a lot of those things, it's I can definitely understand. He's an amazing individual. Unfortunately for me, I have gone through a pretty rough childhood. I grew up in foster home, so there was a lot.
Okay.
There was a lot that I did identify in that book, but his mindset was just like beyond real, right? A lot of things that he pushes his body past the point that you can understand, and it's just like, oh man, that's amazing.
But you've done the same thing, man, right? Like maybe you're not out doing ultra marathons and you're not doing over 4,000 push-ups in 24 hours. Like I'm not sure many people can do that anyway, right? But no, seriously, right? And I'm not suggesting anybody should, right? But what you have done is you did not fall victim to your circumstance. You took control of your life. You owned what you wanted to do. You put the work and the effort in, and that's why you're achieving the success you are in your life right now, because you took control of it, man. And listen, that's where I compare you to him, right? And look, and here's why I bring this up, Jay, and I'm really passionate about this, because people just don't fucking do that today. They don't do that, right? Right now, and I'm a little bit going to get on a soapbox here, but and I blame parents and I blame folks like me, right? We have generations younger than me, millennials, Gen Xers, Gen Zers, Gen Y, whatever they are. They're younger than me, that don't know how to face and overcome adversity. And part of that is their parents' fault because they're protecting them from it. And we have a failure of people taking accountability for their decisions and for their lives. And that's their parents' fault. And they want to blame everybody but themselves, right? It's the teacher's fault, it's the principal's fault, it's the coach's fault, it's everybody's fault but the parents and the kids. And I did not grow up in an environment like that. You know, if I did something wrong at school, I got punished at school. And then when I came home, guess what happened when I got home? I got punished again, right? Now, a kid gets called out in school, the parent runs right to the freaking principal or the teacher and says, you know, what are you doing? It's my kid it ain't his fault. It ain't her fault. It's your fault. It's bullshit, you know? And so the biggest challenge I think we face in our society today, and I apologize, I'm on a rant here, but is people are not taking a personal accountability for their actions, for their decisions. And what I love about your story and what I love about Goggins' story is he and you did not do that. You took control of your life. You took control of your situation. You figured out where you were, where you wanted to go, and what you need to do to get there. And then you committed and did it, man. And I'll tell you, man, I think it's an awesome freaking story.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate that. And like I said, for me, I think it's because I had a reflection of the route that I could go that's a dangerous route, and I've seen that. Right. So essentially, and I'll explain my story real quick, but my sister and I were both put into foster care at an early age. My sister lived with another part of a family that was taking care of me. So they both were relatives. Obviously, the woman that was taking care of me, she was an elder lady. And I had a sense that, you know, she didn't want to, but she needed to, obviously for, I mean, I could say for financial gains.
Oh, she's making money, right?
And so it was myself, and there was another child there named Lewis who had Down syndrome. I didn't know what that was at the time, but I just knew he wasn't like all there when it came to some of the responsive questions she would ask. But she was very abusive. She would hit us with brooms. She would throw us down the stairs, lock us in trunks of cars. She'd do a lot of things. So a lot of things that Lewis did, I would cover up for.
God bless you, man.
She would drop me off with the rest of her family. And there were about, I want to say, a house of 6 girls and, 2 boys, and then the mother and father, I think it's her daughter or her son, but they would sexually abuse me. So because of going through that, right? And so I'm at an early age, not understanding a lot of this. And then sometimes they would take me to go see my sister. And my sister was living with, I believe, her daughter, and she had 3 sons, older teens. I remember that. And they were doing the same thing with my sister.
Oh my God.
So we got to talk about it a little bit, but not really like in a way that you understand as a child. No one should ever go through that. But my sister was, I think, at a point to where she was already mentally broken down.
Yeah, damaged at this point, right?
For me, I knew that I needed to get out of this situation. Whatever the hell I need to do, I'm just going to do it. And so my the social worker came to me and she's like, if you're a good kid, you go back home with your mom, and you don't have to. My mom was in rehab at the time. So you go back home with your mom once she gets out of rehab, and you should be good to go. So I was like, all right, don't do anything, regardless of what, or don't say anything that's going to cause me to bring attention to myself in a manner where I'm going to get in trouble and I can stay in this process. And that's what I did.
Wow.
I just took whatever they gave me, because you understand, like, even in the MST situation, hurt people. So what those women and girls were doing to me, someone else was probably doing to them. And so I was able to identify how to focus on doing what I need to do to get out of that situation. I got out of that situation, and they moved me with my mom. My sister, on the other hand, because of everything that was happening to her, she was just acting up. She tried to run away, and she tried to do a lot of different things. And it had nothing to do with her mentality. I mean, not her mentality was it, but it had to do with the pressure from the people around her doing that,
right,
to advantage her, making her feel that way. And so she ended up getting stuck into the system and went from foster care to group home.
Oh
and
my God.
she pretty much aged out the system, right? And so I'm talking to my sister, and we talk occasionally, but we're not really on like talking terms. But she's completely different, and forever affected and changed because of that. And I am too. but I was able to kind of see that situation and say, this is not what I want to do. I want to be able to not be a victim of my circumstances. And so throughout life, anytime something's been thrown to me, I try to adapt and overcome the situation. I know that, a lot of it is how you feel about yourself, whether you feel dejected, low, whatever. I don't let myself feel those feelings. If I want something, I got to go after it. I want to know that I put everything on the table. And if I wasn't able to make things happen, then it is what it is. But as long as I put everything on the table, then I can't be mad at myself for anything. Do I get everything right all the time? No. Am I perfect?
Hey,
Hell
none
no.
of us do, man.
Yeah.
None of us do.
But I try to think forward, right? I mean, I know the things that happened in the past. Would I change them? I don't honestly say I would, because it made me who I am, right? And it's ingrained in me. And I don't know who I would be if those situations didn't happen. Not to say that I want that to happen to me, but it's
Right.
more so I'm not going to be the victim of my circumstances. That pain, that hurt, all that stuff is going to be what fuels me to move forward. And I guess because of that, I was able to kind of move in a way that's different from most, but everyone has the same capacity and capability, right? You just can't be if you ever want to get over something, it starts with you, regardless of what others are doing to you. It starts with you, and loving and caring for yourself. And that's kind of where I was able to look at it. And so from there, that's what I'm saying, like reading the David Goggins book helped me understand a lot, definitely. And I just wanted different for myself and different for my kids. Like when I first joined, I didn't score really high on my ASRAB. I got like a 42, but that's because I had no value in education. And then they was like, hey, well, based off of this.
Well, you didn't know, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
you value education, you just didn't know at that point,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have the same outlook because I didn't know that education meant opportunity, right? I just knew like, this is something I got to do just because I'm here. But scoring a 42 didn't really give me great options. And so I'm like, well, if I'm this, that's close to failing, right? And so I'm like, I got to do something, or at least try to, make the situation better. So when I guess the detailer, you call him, spoke to me originally, he was like, hey, these are the jobs that you can have. You can go undesignated to this fleet. I was like, I don't want that. I want to go to school. I want some type of trade. I came in for a trade. I want a trade. He's like, no. This one, you can choose any trade. I was like, no, it's not what I want. If you can give me a trade, I'll sign up today. If you can't, then no. And for the first time, like I stood up for myself. I was like, look, this is what it is for me. If you can't do this for me, I don't have a problem walking away. And again, this is on September 11th, the year after the towers fell. And I'm from Manhattan, right? And so I was joining because I wanted to serve, but I didn't want just anything. I wanted to be impactful. I just wanted to be thrown to the wolves.
Good for you, man. So jeez.
He came back with a great opportunity, and then that's how I ended up in the field that I ended up in. And then for the longest time, I let a lot of things define me, like my ASRAB score, what I bring to the table, my past. And then I slowly learned like to start to overcome that. And I just never looked back. But that's kind of like me in a snapshot.
Jay, I got to say this to you. A lot of people have people they look up to and heroes and stuff. And, my wife is one of mine, and you guys, different stories, but similar upbringings. She grew up in a condemned house with non-English speaking parents, and I've come to this conclusion, I always look for anchors in my life, and that's people that when I'm going through something, I look to them and say, wow, that person went through that, and it motivates me. I also note that I will never understand your situation, and that's okay, right? You have to understand that you're not going to understand, right? But I want you to know that your story, and Goggins' story, my wife's story, and really many others are so motivational to me in the sense of, you're a hero to me. Right.
Me too, man. Me too.
Look, I have a real privilege. I do a lot of podcasts. I get to speak to a lot of professional athletes and champions. And don't get me wrong, they're great human beings. And I have no issues with people that can reach the pinnacle of athleticism, but they're not my heroes. Right. I've always said my heroes are military and people like you, because to have the strength, not only to overcome that for yourself, but then, and we're going to find out about this, you see probably education and the military as tools to have a better life. And this is the key for everybody listening. Then you go, I need to share this with other people.
Right.
Other people that may have similar circumstances, or even if they don't, I need to give this back. I mean, if that doesn't make you believe in humans, I just don't know what will, right? And it's funny because, not funny, sorry, it's not the right word. It's amazing to me that people that experience pain on that level, the way that they, I don't want to say compartmentalize. I mean, you'll think of a better word than I will, but the way that you deal with that is to provide the solution for other people that might be going through it. That is the human spirit defined for me, man. It's not winning Stanley Cup championships or MVPs in the Super Bowl, right? And again, nothing wrong with those people. I had to say that to you. Like you're like a hero to me, man. And I know you didn't ask for it. And again, I don't know if that even feels good to you to hear it, but I have to let you know, like, that your story will help me have a better life. I just want to let you know that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, from my perspective, I just don't want anyone to have to go through what I've gone through, right? And I understand what it is to feel like you're at the bottom, and knowing that feeling and knowing that pain. Anyone that I come across, I may not know their situation, but I damn sure I'm not going to let them feel like they're alone in that. And so my biggest thing was, if I can come from that, anyone else can. And it's just a lot of times that you don't think you can, or you don't have the right people around you to push you in that direction.
Right. You might feel alone, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I know what it feels like to feel worthless. And like I said, I'm not going to let anyone feel like that around me. So I try to push as much and as hard as I can on different topics related to that. Having that mental fortitude it's not easy, but yeah, I definitely don't consider myself like anything special, right? It's just more so I think the experience that I've been through has caused me to want to protect people in ways that, or help them in ways that, they may not receive. So the best way I can do it is providing these educational resources, speaking to people. I talk to everyone. Like, I feel like even with folks that are transitioning, they talk about their fears, their worries, their stress. It's breaking them down, it's beating them down, right? They don't know what that second chapter is looking like. And that's very that whole new concept is just new to them, right? It's just not something that's very foreign. Yeah. And they don't feel like they're doing everything they can, or they may feel like they're just missing the mark on some things. And, just a lot of regret, worry. And so I take my experience and what I've learned and look, we are very resilient. At the end of the day, stuff that you're worried about this week, you may not be worried about next week. But you got to kind of think about how to move forward. You can't be stuck in the past as much, but the past definitely builds you and it's your foundation, but the past is not going to dictate who you become. And that's what you got to look at. It's like a famous song from Outkast, like spaceships don't come with rearview mirrors. So you're not looking in the past, right? You got to be focused that you're going. And so when I'm coming across folks and, believe it or not, a lot of people do break down on the phone with me. A lot of people
I believe it.
Are very transparent. And it's like, hey, you get it, And I was like, yeah, because I've been there. So it's nothing new. We just got to take it together and approach it together, right? And that's why I say don't transition alone. Try to connect with folks. Because it's a lot, right? And that 22 a day, eats up at me, because those were 22 folks that you wondered if there was a way to intervene in that situation, right? I've had several sailors in my career commit suicide. And the crazy thing for me, right, is as vocal as I am and direct as I am most of the time, there's been a handful of cases where I was like, did I do everything that I could, right? I've saw some signs, but I didn't really call it out for one. And I'll give you an example without mentioning the gentleman's name. Just picked up chief, right?
Wow.
His first year as a chief, and came into work looking really disheveled. His uniform wasn't put on right. It was just like, it's like, hey man, what's going on? What's going on with you? And he's like, oh, I'm good. I'm just tired. It's like, okay, but I knew that wasn't the case. But did I question it at the time? And I let it ride. I was like, okay, yeah, you're good. I'll just check back in with you. And then I was like, nah, something's not right. So I went to go talk to another chief and the senior chief. I was like, hey, man, hey, I don't think he's all right, man. Something's up. I think we should talk to him. I was like, he just got put on, chief, man. He's just tired. Yeah. He's probably just going through it. And I let that go, right? I was like, yeah. But something inside me said I should probably say more and do more. But I just let it go. I was like, okay, and I'm just overthinking this. And I want to say about a month later, he commits suicide. He shoots himself, right? And I just like, that was one of the 22, right? And did I do everything that I could to prevent that? I don't think the answer is no. I didn't do everything I could. But now, like, because of that, and that pain, I turn that pain into something to move forward with. If I come across any sailor who I think is or soldier, airman, guardian, Marine that is going down that path, I am going to do everything in my damnness to make sure that doesn't happen. And I had that chance or an opportunity to prevent that for a sailor who was down on his luck because he had some relationship issues and just felt like it was it for him. And I was able to convince him to, that's not the way to go. I need you here. I need you to be here. I'm getting old. You need to do things. You're the talent, you're the youth. We're going to learn how to overcome some of these things, but everyone's been through difficult times. You just got to kind of understand that you're more valuable to us alive than you are in the ground. And so that was the best I could do in that situation. But like I said, it's difficult and it's tough, right? And that whole mindset and understanding how to move forward. So those who are struggling, and anyone is listening, and those who are struggling, reach out, right? If you are struggling, just reach out to somebody. Reach out to me. You don't have to even know me. Just hit me up. I'll talk to you. We'll kick it. But know that there are people out there, and everyone goes through some things. And sometimes it's hard to deal with that and balance that. But you got to be willing to move forward. But you definitely have to address it with yourself, and that helps you move forward. You're not going to feel whole, but over time, you use that to strengthen who you are. Me telling my story makes my story a little less more sharp, right? It just dulls it a little bit enough for me. But overall, my focus is what I do for others, what type of impact, and what's the legacy that I leave. And that's kind of what I focus on. And not a lot of people know that about me. If people know me, like, you catch me in the elevator, you're gonna hear something about education. Like, even if you don't know me, I will hunt you down. Like, it's like, who's this dude, the lieutenant talking to me? Yeah, look, you know what it's because I care, right? And then a lot of times you'll get that. If I see a young sailor and he's just, could be gate guard duty or, just walking, I was like, when you going to submit this officer package? And they're like, who are you talking? I'm talking to you. When you going to submit this officer package? I'm waiting for it. He's like, I'll get on that, sir. I was, absolutely. Let's make that happen. So I try to, instill and put seeds in people's head to help them understand how to move forward, because I've had great mentors in my first tour and my first part of my career, instill those things in me. So I use everything that I learned and I try to give it back.
Hey, listen, man, as I'm listening to this, Lee told you you're his hero. It's the same exact thing for me, man. And I'm going to go even a couple steps further. I study leadership. I've done it since I was a kid, and I didn't even know I was studying it. And Lee's heard this from me before, but I filter everything. I view everything through a leadership lens. And you are one of the most caring, one of the most effective leaders I've ever met in my life. And I don't say that lightly. And I've been around some incredible people in the military, outside the military. It doesn't matter. But your ability to overcome what you overcame, to do what you did in your life, and then to look to help others achieve their goals, their objectives, better their lives, is the epitome of what we all call servant leadership and caring leadership. And I'll tell you something, Jay. You remind me of a guy I served with. He was actually a friend and mentor of mine. He was a little bit older than me. We were the same rank, but he was a little bit more senior than I was. His name, and I'm going to mention his name because I just think the world of him. I haven't spoken to him in years, and I'm going to reach out to him after this call, to be honest with you. But Rod Phillips was a mentor of mine. And let me tell you the kind of, and you remind me so much of Rod, and I'm going to tell you why. Rod, first of all, he cared so deeply about everybody that he served around. And again, he served in joint units. He was an Army signal officer like me, a communications officer. It didn't matter what your service was, what your rank was. But when Rod was talking to you, he was talking to you about three things, after he was getting to know you. And the first thing was, what are you doing to save money? And what are you doing to invest? And you need to start doing something to build your financial freedom or independence, so that when you get out, you have many more choices in your life. What are you doing about furthering your education, civilian education, because that's going to help you get promoted, and that's going to help you when you get out. And then what are you doing about furthering your military education that's going to make you more competitive for promotion? I mean, Rod, when Rod was talking to you, I guarantee you, if not all three topics, one of those topics was coming up. And you remind me so, and it's because he cared, right? Rod just deeply cared about everybody he served around and wanted to make them the best they could be. And so it kind of leads me to the next question, man. But now, understanding what I know now, it makes so much sense to me. But obviously, you founded Act Now Education, and it makes perfect sense to me why you did, right? But what I found fascinating as I was researching, your background is you're a mentor with Veterati, you're a mentor with the Key. You've been assisting transitioning veterans for well over 9 years. I'm not that familiar with Veterati. I'm not familiar with the Key. And so for me and for the audience, and it's really more for the audience, talk about what you do with them and what roles you fill and how you help people. And because I think, listen, you were clearly committed to helping, men and women in uniform, whether they've been in for 4 years or 34 years, have a low stress, very highly successful transition to the public and private sector. So tell me what you're doing in those roles, in addition to what you're doing with Act Now Education.
Well, absolutely. So yeah, it's and I think that I'm taking the years of my experience of research on different programs available to the military community, to include spouses and veteran spouses as well. So we include everyone in the military community, reservists.
Which is absolutely wonderful too, as well, man. Thank you for doing that as well.
No, absolutely. And what I do is I pretty much, when I'm talking to them, I hear them out. What's their current situation? So on Veterati specifically, I do one-on-one calls. So the program is an awesome platform. Essentially, you sign up, it's free. Most of the stuff we talk about is free, but you sign up, it's free, and then you have access to a bunch of, I would say, coaches, right? They're mentors, but they're coaches, right? Because they'll talk to you about a topic, whether you're interested, like say if you're interested in program management, if you're interested in podcasting, whatever you're interested in, you can sign up, reach out to anybody on there, and you'll have a 1-hour call with them based off of their schedule. And so for me, I talk about, transitioning. I talk about what's your next move, entrepreneurship, business. And so when folks reach out to me, that's essentially what I'm talking about. And the way I run it down is they tell me what's going on. Okay, I've been in for 17 years. I've been in for 5. I've been in for 20. I've been in for 26. And then they tell me essentially what they're trying to do. And then I identify how we can get closer to the mark that they're trying to get to, right? And that's sometimes where it's difficult, trying to understand what that path looks like, because it's not really clear. And all they really need is some additional data points, right? In order to make a better decision, you need more information. And if you don't have that information, we just need to find out ways to do so. So I typically tell them, okay, if you know the career field, or if you don't know the career field, those ways to identify that. We can use these few programs like My Next Move. You can take the online ONET assessment, which kind of helps you identify what type of career fields you best suit or fit. And then from there, if it's something that interests you, okay, now let's take this to the next level. Let's connect with folks, because networking is key, right? We did a group study. It was pretty much said like, hey, what percentage of you veterans got jobs based off of these following criteria, whether it be their network, whether it be their job board, whether it be an event, whether it be a military transition program like SkillBridge. 62% or 65% said networking. And so that goes to show me a lot of referrals, a lot of friends, a lot of people they're associated with, coworkers, former employees. So things like that, right? And so I say, we need to expand your network because we don't really talk about how to do that, right? You know who you know in the military, but what else do you know outside of that? What's your LinkedIn looking like? And so we address those issues. How to identify and how to check into with people, how to properly, you know, introduce yourself to someone. And then what does that look like? So using tools like Veterati, you can reach out to someone and say, hey, get the day in the life up. That's going to help you. If you want to be a program manager, talk to program managers from different companies. See what they do, see what they like about their job, see what they don't like about their job. That way you can have more data points. And based off of those data points, then you can move into the next phase, which is, you know, lock yourself down with a mentor that's really going to nurture your growth, right? And so you can do that with a program called ACP, American Corporate Partners. And what they provide is a 12-month mentorship with Fortune 500 companies. And I'm not talking about like your normal
but these are C-suite type folks, right?
Like, so I've used the program twice. ACP, don't be mad. No, I used the program twice. You're only supposed to use it once, but they hooked me up. But
Right.
I used it for the first time was a VP of a very well-known company. And I was like, that's my mentor? This is crazy. And then the second time, it was director of Target, right? And it was just like, because he had a business experience and I was interested in small business. So totally, like, I don't have those connections. I don't have that context. So telling people to reach out to that. So once you build your foundation using Veterati, LinkedIn, you know, get the LinkedIn free year to kind of your Prime, the free Prime account for veterans, military spouses, and active duty, get that, you know, and then start reaching out to folks and then use that to build up your network. And then you can go to an event like the Keys. The Keys is which they bring in industry level folks and they talk about it. Like it's people, mostly veterans, military spouses that, you know, have transitioned out and they're connecting with folks that are on their way out. And the thing I like about the Keys is, and in LinkedIn Mill City, it's so raw, right? It's really addressing the concerns and fears of individuals and being able to let them know and reassure them that, look, it's going to be okay, which at the end of the day, it will, right? It's just might take you some time to kind of figure out how to go about doing that. But people really come out of their shells in those environments. And that starts that networking key, right? And so that's that networking piece. So I tell people when they go to events like that, you know, find a few people that you want to identify and then like, hey, let me reach out to that person on LinkedIn and make it, don't be the gray man or woman. Don't sit in the background, listen to how everything's going. Try to be active, talk about your story, connect with folks, and then build from there. But those programs essentially help with that. And that's the role that I play, right? I try to orchestrate helping folks go through programs that's going to help them network, give them advice, give them guidance on what I think they should do. Like right now we're running, we're about to do this campaign for ACP. They have 1,000 available mentorship sessions for military spouses. Active duty military spouses. And so we want to get the word out so people are aware that this free resource, a mentor for a whole year, especially if you're finding the mentor in the state that you're living in or the state that you want to go to, that helps you touch base on that town, that city, that state, that can give you that much more leverage, right? Because they may know, and I tell people this analogy, you know, if you try to apply for a job, you might get it, but you just don't really know. And you don't know how many people are going to apply for that job.
Right.
So there's a long
and you're
line
just a number, right? You're just a number competing
right? So,
with a bunch of other numbers, right?
Applicant tracking system, right? So
I want to jump in here too real quick, Jake, because you're bringing up a great point. I want to make sure I apply it to the audience as well. So what you're talking about works in any transition situation, right? From college to the real world, military to civilian world, professional sports.
I was going to say sport, you know, athletes to out of their athletic pursuit. The
mistake that people make, and I'm calling out the audience that's still in the active duty right now, is saying, well, I can wait till the end to do that. Do not wait. This is 100 times harder when you don't have a job, right? So we always talk about that 12 to 24 months out from transition. That's when you want to start doing this networking, and do not underestimate the power of networking. Jay, another thing I wanted to say, this is another reason why networking is important. It's not just to get to know people in the industry. All right. You might realize after 3 calls, wow, I don't want to go into that industry.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Right. And that's super important. I tell college students all the time with their majors, I'm just equating it to this because because people seem to understand that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like,
that's exactly.
oh, I hate my major. I hate my major. Well, then switch your major. I can't switch. Why? Now is the time to do it. If you have the information that you don't want to do this for 45 years, why would you let your ego get in the way?
Spend all that money.
Right. And it's
go
a little
into
more
debt
than
so we can
16,000
relieve
now.
you of the debt, right?
Yeah. As I say, it's a little more than 16,000 at a community college now, right? So my point is, from what you're saying, I just want to make the audience understand that it's so important to start this process early, because you may realize you don't want to do what you thought you wanted to do. B, you might realize there's a totally different direction you want to go and that you're way more excited about. But if you don't pick up the phone and make those calls, you're going to have a hard time. And I'll tell you, when you transition out, if you have not done this, you're going to have financial stress. You're going to have marital stress if you're married, and it will not help you with this process. And you're going to force yourself into a position, out of fear, which that's what happens, that you might be miserable. And it can't happen with these resources now.
Even worse than miserably, right? So I'm going to get on another soapbox here, right? Because this is something that I am so passionate about. And Jay, you probably know this, right? I did not know this till about 60 days ago. The number one cause for veteran suicide is not PTS. It's not TBI. It's not combat wounds. It's problematic transitions. That is the number. There is data and research being done by the Department of Veteran Affairs under Dr. Joe Rogan. He's leading a task force. He's got about a $3 to $3.5 million grant right now. He's got a team of clinical psychologists working. The number one reason for the high rate of veteran suicide is problematic transitions, right? And here's another interesting statistic that I got from Joe. The likelihood of a veteran committing suicide after he or she exits the Army within the first 12 months goes up 2 to 3 times. Think about that for a second. The period when someone exits the military, the likelihood of them committing suicide goes up 2 to 3 times in the first 12 months of them exiting. And it's exactly for what Lee just said. Number one, they lose their sense of community. Right? We're part of a tribe when we're in the military. They lose their sense of community and they fail to replace it with another community or several other communities, right? They lose their sense of purpose. When we were in uniform, most of us had a sense of purpose. They fail to replace it, right? And so now that starts this downward spiral. They lose community, they lose purpose. Now, if they're having trouble finding a job, right? And even if they find a job, but they don't really like what they're doing, that creates financial stress. If they're married, that creates marital stress. So now this downward spiral keeps going deeper. Now they look to mask the pain with use and abuse of drugs and alcohol or both. And they get into such a downward spiral and see no way out. What do? They ultimately make the decision to mask their pain and they take their lives. And that's what we're combating right now. That's what I'm combating right now. There's an interesting program, and I'll put it in the show notes, the Army ETS sponsorship program that is specifically out of the research that Dr. Joe Rogan is doing with the Department of Veteran Affairs. Based on that research, the Army has put together an Army ETS sponsorship program. We do a great job of bringing folks into the military, and certainly the Army. We do a great job when you go from unit to unit. We sponsor people going to a new unit, and we do an absolutely shitty job of helping someone get out of the military and figure out how they're going to live on beyond their time in the military. So what the Army has done is they put this together, this Army ETS sponsorship program, which essentially assigns you if you choose to do it, first of all, it's mandatory within a year or so of you getting out. You have to go into the program, provide your name, your contact information. And then once you identify where you're going, if you elect to, so Cohen's getting out in March of 2023, and he's going to go to Prince William County, Virginia. So, and I elect to have a sponsor. They will assign me a sponsor in Prince William County, Virginia, if one exists, who will now take me by the hand and help me through that first 12 months, right? So let me and Lee, you picked up a great point, but I'm gonna kind of expand that, right? Because I was certainly of the opinion that you need to start 2 years out, your transition planning and preparation and execution, right?
I would definitely say a lot further out.
That's exactly where I'm going, Jay. And this may sound crazy to some people, but I'm going to tell you something, man. The day you go into the military is the day you need to start planning for your transition from the military. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not focused on doing things you need to do, be successful, to get promoted, to build a very meaningful and successful career. But I'm telling you that there are things you can do while you're doing all that. And whether you're staying in 20 years, 25 years, 35 years, I don't care. But you can be doing something in conjunction with building your career and building a successful career and start preparing. And one of them is you build out a very, very a well built out LinkedIn profile. You're active on LinkedIn. You're building out your network from literally the day you come in, and you start expanding and deepening your network, right? And if you do those kinds of things, you are going to set yourself up for an extremely low stress, highly successful transition. So I'm with you, Jay. I don't think you can start earlier than this, right? And I didn't think that. I didn't, 2, 3, 4, 5 months ago, as I was doing, I was thinking, hey, 2 years, you're good. You know what? The sooner you start planning and preparing for your transition, the lower stress and more successful transition you're going to have.
No, yeah, absolutely. I've been in for 19 years. I'm an extremely hard worker, but I've been mentally retired for the last 10. So it's there, right? I prepare myself, right, and seeing what the route I wanted to go. And you make a really good point, Lee, with when I started doing the networking piece and stuff, connecting with folks, I was like, cybersecurity is where it's at. That's where everyone's leading to, that's where the development is happening. There's 3 routes that people typically take in cybersecurity, right? They can either become a data scientist, you can become, a coder, do pen tests and a lot of other things that's related to that, or you can get into cloud computing. And I was like, I've done some coding courses. Let me jump into that. I think that's going to be a great way for me to kind of, set myself apart, have a skill set, learn a language, and then expand on that. I do not like coding. Do not like it. I went through a course and I realized that this is not what I want to do when I transition. Now, if I would have waited until I was about to get out to do that, it would have been a bad time. Yeah. So right now I switched to cloud computing, which I enjoy. It's not as intensive as coding. And I'm saying for those who love coding, no shots to you, but we definitely need you in the world. I just know I'm better behind other things. Right. And so understanding that helped me get a good foundation. And then the other aspect I would say is, right, it's better to have a network and not need it, and need a network and not have one.
Right.
Totally. And I tell this to a lot of people, just connect with me. My network is your network. If I know somebody I can connect you with, I will do it. I'm going to ask you, for accountability's sake, what is it that you're trying to do and how can I help you get closer to that mark? So it's just not like me connecting you to somebody and you messed an opportunity up. I'm here to support, but I'm definitely going to challenge you to make sure that you're prepared for whatever it is that you're looking for. Because the one thing that I want to say is, though we get a lot, and compared to the civilian sector, they don't get half of the resources we get, as a military community. And the crazy thing is we don't take advantage of them, right? And so we don't know necessarily what's out there. But sometimes we just kind of not think of our process, not say anyone's entitled in anything, but no one owes us anything.
That is the problem though, right? I'm going to call it out. People do think they're entitled, right? And it's bullshit. You have hit, I think, in a really important point, Jay. And look, man, look at your past. Look at where you came from, right? You worked for everything you had. And I told you before, you owned your future, right? And that's the biggest problem I hear from, look, I spent a lot of time in this space. You do as well. You live in this space, right? With your company. But I spent a lot of time in this space. And the biggest frustration I hear from folks who work for VSOs is that people are expecting them to do their transition for them. right?
Yeah.
And that's not what they're there to do. They are a resource for you. You have to own your transition process. You have to put in the time and the effort and the work. And if you and well, first of all, you have to ask for help, right?
Yes.
And a lot of people don't even do that because they're too fucking arrogant to even ask for help, right?
Or file a disability claim because they feel that they're good, after 6 years of serving or however long, and then realize that, that is not the way to go. Eventually you have elements and there will be related to your time and experience. If you've been in Afghanistan and experienced burn pits like I have, that you're going to get something. You may not have it now, but you will get it later.
Hey, Jay, let me tell you what I found out yesterday, right? I literally found this out yesterday. I was at a networking event in DC, the Burbs, or whatever, how you pronounce it, a networking event. I just happened to go by.
Heavily drinkers on that one.
What's that?
They're heavily drinkers on that one.
Oh, well, I didn't drink. I was working my way from table to table. I just happened to stop by the Department of Veteran Affairs table, and I met this young woman who, when I was done with her, I gave her a hug. I could have, and I mean, unbelievable. So I put it, first of all, let me tell you how screwed up I was, right? I didn't even put in my packet for 10 years after I retired. How stupid was that, right? So how much money did I leave on the table, right? Well, then I finally put it in. And based on a friend of mine's recommendation, I actually paid someone to help me do it, which was a huge mistake. And they didn't do as good a job as they could have. So I got 30% compensation, right? Well, literally within 10 minutes of talking to this young woman yesterday, I found out that she could almost guarantee me 70% compensation just because I served in and around the Gulf War, right? And so for folks listening out there, if you were in the military for Gulf War I and II, there is, and I don't remember what, I'll find it and I'll put it in the show notes, but there is a letter that the VA has put out in, I think, September of 2021, that if you meet any of these requirements, you are automatically guaranteed up to 70%, and you don't even have to have deployed. Here's the fascinating thing. You didn't even actually have to deploy. You just had to serve during this period of time. And so once I put in my packet, it'll go up from 30 to 70%. Wow. Right. And I literally found this out yesterday. Right. Wow. Hey, I had a million things I wanted to say, and I lost it all, man, because my brain's going at 1,000,000 miles an hour here, man. Listen, man, this is a great conversation, and I honestly did not know all this stuff was going to come out today. I knew you were an exceptional guy. You are even more exceptional than I even thought. Hey, Jay, listen, in the interest of time, let me do this. I'd like to move to the last question, but I want you to, if there's anything else you want to say, I want to give you the microphone. But as Lee mentioned in our intro, we are seeking to strengthen mental fitness worldwide. That's the Pivotal Moments Media vision, right? And I know from personal experience that we all struggle with mental challenges at times. I do. And Lee knows this, and I've been a lot more open and transparent about it than I probably have ever in my life. I certainly wasn't when I was in uniform. I personally struggle with my mental fitness, right? But we all struggle in varying degrees and at varying times, right? And based on who we are, how we deal with that changes based on the individual, right? And listen, I guess what I want to ask you is, have you had any struggles with your own mental fitness? I know you've seen others, and if you want to continue to share stories about others that you've seen, what have you experienced? What have you seen others experience? What do you do to strengthen your own mental fitness? What lessons learned can you share with our audience to help them strengthen their own mental fitness?
I would say personally for me, right, it's just understanding that when I come against a problem that I'm just not able to get my head around, that's either beating me down, having an effect on me. The one thing I keep in mind is I'm going to live through it, right? It's going to be okay. It may not be okay next week or the following week, but eventually I would get to a point where I'm okay, right? The thing that I also try to tell myself, or at least, calm down the situation, is look internally at it, right? And just take a mental pause. We're always busy. We're either looking at our phones or looking at all this other stuff, things that make things worse or may exacerbate it. When something's really hit me hard, I'll just take some time. I just need some time for myself and do the things that help restore you. I wouldn't say I'm like a long time meditation guru or anything, but I've tried it and it does help, right? It does take some of the edge off. It helps me kind of focus, clears my mind and stops as much as going on in my brain and allows me to see what's the next point. The other thing is, I have this analogy that I kind of use. So I love basketball. I enjoy playing ball, street ball with my friends. For those who are familiar, you have a roster, right? And you have teams that are playing, right? And you have to understand you have people on the bench and you have a coach. If you're trying to win the game of life, it depends on the players that you have in the game with you. Let's say your adversary is whatever that problem is, and they're dunking, shooting, scoring, killing you, right? They're up by 30. What are some things that you can do to kind of change that around? If the people that you have on your team currently playing suck, are not helping you, are not, depositing good things into you, helping you score, making that score come closer to the, with your adversary, that problem is, then you need to kick them off the team or put them on the bench, right? Put them on the bench and kick them off the team.
Beautiful analogy, man.
Right?
God, I love this.
Yeah, and if those individuals that are on your bench are ready to go, put them in the game to help you win this, right? And if they're not doing well, like I said, move them off the team, find somebody else to play with you. Find somebody else in your game that's going to help you fight for what you need to fight for. If that coach is not good, you need to recognize that, right? It's also you owning it, right? But you have to understand that you can't do things alone. You can't do things alone. It's just going to take a lot more out of you. So I made sure that I surround myself with a team that's going to win. My Act Now team, they're at it, right? They get at it. They do what they need to do, and I'm very thankful I come across some of these great individuals like Tyrone, Nikki, Nicole, John, Mona.
Tyrone Hewitt.
Yeah, Tyrone.
He is freaking amazing, man. Yeah. I love that guy.
KP. So all of them they get after, right? And so you got to have that kind of mentality in life. So when I know I'm playing and I go against a situation I'm not doing so well at, I may not be scoring, right? But I could do some assists and I can have some people on my team that help me win this game.
I love that.
And so that's the focal point, is being able to identify folks that you can connect with. And if they're not in your circle, find them. Yeah. Because that's where it starts.
Hey, Jay, you reminded me, I think I might have shared this story once before on a previous episode, but you reminded me. So another guy who is a personal friend, still is a personal friend and mentor of mine. When I was in the Joint Communications Unit as a senior captain, I was getting ready to go to Command General Staff College, right? And the guy who was the commander of the Joint Communications Unit was major promotable Rock Schmidt. In fact, by this time he might have actually pinned on lieutenant colonel. Anyway, he pulls me over. I'm like maybe a month or so from leaving the unit, going off to Leavenworth to Command General Staff College. He says, "Howie, I'm going to tell you the secrets of success." And I said, "Rock, give me a chance to go get my notebook." And I literally ran and got my notebook, right? And I'm ready to take. I'm a note taker, man. So I'm ready to take notes. I say, "Rock, okay, I'm ready." He says, "Howie, here's the secret to success. You have got to surround yourself with the absolute best people you can find. So you got to be like the best recruiter in the world, and you go out and recruit the absolute best people you can find and surround yourself with them, right? And you bring them onto your team, and then you give them a little bit of guidance, you give them a little bit of direction, you take care of them, you take care of their families, and then you get the hell out of the way and you let them do what they need to do to be successful. And if you do that, you're going to be successful, right?" He says, and the real key is you got to find people who are smarter than you. right?
Yes.
And he says, and Howie, I know you're going to be successful because I know you can only find people who are smarter than you. So that's what that was. And let me tell you something, man. I took that advice and I applied it for the rest of my career. So I was never the best guy in any organization I was in. But what I did was I brought the absolute best people I could find into that organization. And you know what? They're going to help if you take care of them and you help them be successful. Ultimately, they're going to help you be successful.
Well, that's a talent too, Howie. Is, it's like Steve Jobs, he played the orchestra, right? He didn't play an instrument, he played the orchestra. That's what you do. It's also nice to know why I'm the co-host of the show now. I really appreciate that compliment.
Absolutely.
And that is the reason, right?
I'm teasing you.
So for those of you who don't know, right, when Bob Morgan, this is back in January of 2021, right? Bob Morgan asked me to be the director of the Charlie Mike channel. And I said yes. And then a couple weeks later, because we're a content creation production company that distributes highly entertaining, educational, and inspirational content to strengthen mental fitness. He says, "Look, I want you to start producing some content for the Charlie Mike channel." I said, "Okay." He says, "I'd like you to start a podcast." Now I immediately, when he asked me to be the director of the Charlie Mike channel, without hesitation, I said yes. When he told me he wanted me to start running a podcast, there was about 2 minutes of silence on the phone because I didn't know how the hell I was going to do that. I was not experienced. And then I said, "Hey, Bob, are you okay with me having a co-host?" He says, "Yeah, I'd rather you do it yourself, but if that's what you need." I said, "Well, shit, Bob, that's what I need. I know exactly the right guy." And as soon as I hung up with Bob, I called Lee, and I didn't even ask Lee to do it. I said,
it was
"You're going to be my co-host, Lee." Right?
Here's what we're going to do.
It works.
Hey, Jay, listen, but before we move on to the close at some point here, I got every week on the show, I do a little fun segment with our guests where I give them a book title. And I've thought this with many guests, but I've never said this out loud. You need to write a book at some point.
Yeah, I agree.
Joking aside, these are a little bit funny, the ones I try and do, but I wanted to make sure before I even read the ones that I came up with, I think your life is incredible. I think a book would do an incredible amount for other people, and I'll put it out here now. I'm happy to help you co-write that.
Hey, you're looking more like Goggins every time I look at you, man.
Yeah.
And
so you got
to write your version. It can't hurt me, man.
Right. We got to start talking like you. I'm on a podcast. I'm running. Stay fucking hard. Anyway, the book title I came up with you came from the beginning. And it's meant to be a little bit funny, but I'm going to say it again. You should write a real book, but I called it The Long Walk: How $16,000 of Potential Debt Led Me to the Navy. You said that it was a long walk. But absolutely. I want to say here again before closing remarks is that,
hey, Lee, can I offer one title?
I
never do this
special episode.
I never do this. Never, ever. This is like our 31st.
It better be good, Howie. You better not ruin my segment.
No. Listen, man. And I don't claim.
We're gonna have to put you on the bench.
You goddamn right. You put me on. If I'm not producing, man, you need to kick my ass off the team, man. So listen, I am not near the creative that Lee is, not by a long shot. But you said something that resonated with me, and I actually thought Lee was going to pick up on it, and it's okay that he didn't. I'm glad I wrote it down. But spaceships don't have rear view mirrors.
That was awesome. Yeah.
That I'm telling you, man, I love that one. And if you were writing a book, I would consider, if it's not the title, maybe it's a subtitle, but that is your life right there. You have only looked forward and you have only moved forward, and you have not let your past define, it may have motivated you, but it does not define you. And that's what makes you such an exceptional person. That's what makes David Goggins such an exceptional person, because no matter what he experienced in his life, all the way up to current day, right? Because he constantly is overcoming adversity, whether it's injury, physical ailments, whatever.
Broken body.
Yeah. I mean, look, he had a hole in his heart. He didn't even know that, right? And all the shit he did with a hole in his heart, he wasn't even properly oxygenating his blood, and look at all the shit he did, right? And then once they filled up that hole, he went into a whole nother level, right? the bottom line is that everything in his past motivated him, and he used that to callous his mind, to strengthen his mind, to make him stronger, to never give in to anything in his life. And I'm telling you, man, you remind me so much of him as I listen to you. But anyway, spaceships don't have rear
That's a good one,
mirrors,
Howie.
man.
You can stay on the ice with me, Howie.
He scored a point. He scored a few points.
Yeah, you can stay on the court with us today.
All right, I got an assist, Lee.
There you go. Take one. Take what you know. Yes, we'll look at the coach. You stay out. He can stay out. Jay, my final thoughts too are this: is that again, the human spirit is something I kind of study. And look, there's a lot of great people that accomplish amazing things. That had a lot of opportunities, growing up to do that. But what I look for with human spirit is when I can look at someone and say, they don't have to do that. All right. And the example with you, and I'm sorry that we're complimenting you so much, but I'll tell you this is that, if you just got a job and lived your life, I think people would say, with what you've been through, I get it. Right. But you didn't just do that. Then you join the military, you get all this education. I could say he didn't have to do that. But above all, the testament to your character is that you have a successful military career. You're doing all these things. People could look at you and say that would be enough. But you go a step further and help other people, and you didn't have to do that. And I'm sure from your point of view, you do have to do it. Don't get me wrong. All right. But when I look at that, I go, man, that's the peak of human potential. When you don't have to do something, you're choosing to do it, you're impacting lives because you want to. That is a complete lack of ego in the best possible way, number one. And if we want to talk about, human potential, which we have no idea what we can reach. I've said that. People think, I say this every 4 years, an Olympic record gets broken every 4 years, right? We have no idea what we can reach. And when you get into the mind and mental fitness, I'm just talking about physical fitness when it comes to the Olympics. We don't even know what we can accomplish in our heads.
Yes.
Hey, it's more. No, it's mental fitness too.
Right.
It's mental toughness, right? You don't. Right. It's just not physical. That is tremendous mental toughness that those athletes exhibit.
That's the point I'm trying to make is that, even when someone like you, people would understand if you didn't want to, but you do it anyway, because you don't have to, you choose to. Just opens up the world when you meet people like you. You know what I mean? So, the peak of human potential will never be met, hopefully, but you're pushing it forward, man. That's what I'm trying to say. All right. And again, as much as respect as I have for athletes, and I'm not trying to insult any athletes, they're not pushing the planet forward. People like you are, right? They're making entertaining, or painful teams that can't win Stanley Cups or NBA championships. So
let go of the Flyers, man.
Yeah. One day I will. Anyway, Jay, this has been wonderful. Again, it's funny, man. We never really know what's going to happen on an episode, and I'm constantly on this show, just like, wow, what a conversation that was. Like almost every time, it's never just the one thing. So
listen, man, I just think you are unfreaking believable. And as much as I thought of you before this conversation, and as much as I want to help Act Now education, and I do everything I possibly could do when I see stuff on social media and push it forward, I'm going to double down my effort, man. And whatever I can do, all you got to do is reach out to me, man. I don't care text, I don't care phone, I don't care email, I don't care what time of day, I don't care what day. You need anything from me, you want anything from me, man, don't you hesitate to reach out to me, because I want to do everything I can do to make you and Act Now education and anything else you're doing, man. I want to help it thrive, man.
Coach, we need a sub. We need to bring Howie on the team.
Howie's on the team. He's going to put you in the game, Howie. I was just going to say, Howie,
I'm ready, Coach. I'm ready, Coach.
Howie on our 5. Yeah,
I'm ready. Wiping his feet and getting him dry.
I'm ready.
Last thing, Jay, appreciate you. I'm not going to say anything about where you're at, but I appreciate you. It's clearly the middle of the night where you are. So I appreciate you joining us. When Howie says anytime, any place, apparently you mean that too. So I appreciate that. All right. With that said, you've been listening to Life After the Military. It's powered by Pivotal Moments Media, and we hope that you receive value from this podcast. If you listened to this, you had to have. There's no way you didn't. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, rate us on Apple Podcasts, share it with others. That's how we grow, is by providing you with the value, and then you share it with other people. And check out pivotalmomentsmedia.com. Take the time. We have other channels. It's all mental fitness education. We have lots of, as Howie said, inspirational, educational content. We're on that mission to break the stigma surrounding mental health and mental fitness, and we're going to do it. So for Howie Cohen and Jay, I'm Lee Elias. Thanks so much for joining us. Make sure to keep an eye out for more episodes soon, wherever podcasts can be heard. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on Life After the Military. Have a great day, everybody.